without further ado, post-test preview, we are now doing the second page, which you will be seeing in an exam form tomorrow. Very similar in how it looks. So, when using TI technology to find the solutions, which command would you use? Okay, so just basically look at the picture, and you've got to figure out which one of those three commands it is. So is that looking for a 0 or an x-intercept? Is that a minimum or is that a maximum? Max. Right, so reminder of what the different things are. If something's a maximum, it's going to be where there's like a hill. It's at the peak of the hill. If something's a minimum, it's going to be down at the bottom. So like if I would have circled this, that would have been an example of a minimum. And then zeros are just fancy names for x-intercepts. So if I would have circled that, that would have been the 0. Okay? So what I'm looking for in describe the process for the second point would be something like second trace number 4, because that's what I'd type into the calculator to get to that function. And since some of you probably wouldn't be interested in writing an entire book for me, I'd say then trap the maximum in. Instead of saying, move my arrow 3 to the left and hit enter, and hit to the right 6, then hit enter, and then hit enter again. I mean, if you want to write all that, you can. But otherwise, just go ahead and tell me you're trapping that point in and how to get there. That's it. Okay? No math, nothing you have to do with the calculator, just a little descriptor. Yeah. Yep. Whatever you see here, you're going to see it tomorrow. Yep. Okay, solving. Okay, when we're dealing with logarithms, a log and its base are inverses. So in other words, like if I have log 2 and 2, they cancel. Okay? So on number 13, if I want to get towards that x plus 1, that log base 4 is in the way. So I use a 4 to get rid of the log. It is algebra, so I have to do the same thing to both sides, but here's the kicker. On that right side, remember, we're exponentiating. In other words, that's not 4 times 3, that's 4 to the 3rd power, or 64. And just like that, we're one step away from being done. But you have to use the inverse on both sides. And that's true whether you have a log and you're trying to get rid of it with its base, or we do the opposite. And now I need to get to that, but I need to get the 2 out of the way. I can use the log of that base to both sides. So on the left, the log base 2 and 2 would cancel. So you're like, okay, so what in the heck do I do with this? Can I type this into the calculator? How do I do that? To type this into the calculator, we have to use change of base. So a little flashback. Log big divided by log little. So if I tuck my calculator in here, log 8 divided by log 2 is 3. So this is really 3x minus 1 equals 3. And now we're back into Algebra 1 stuff. So 2 problems where a log Dang, I can get fractions? Yep. Sure can. So log and its inverse are going to be key. 15, just a little brain work. Determine whether the following calls for a survey, an observational study, or an experiment. Okay, quick reminder on what these three things are. Survey, you're just asking for opinions. What do you think of whatever? Observational study, I'm just watching what's going on as a bystander from the side. I'm not doing anything to anybody. I'm just seeing how people react. And then an experiment where something changes. Something changes for one group to kind of see if it works or not. So, a teacher gives half the students in a class a note card to use on a test and gives the other half of the class nothing to use. Which one of the three things would that be an example of? Experiment. Because I wasn't asking their opinion. I wasn't just watching. I was physically doing different things. So that's why that would be an experiment. And that's it. Don't even have to explain nothing. You're like, okay. For a statistics project, a group of students decided to collect data in order to approximate the percent of students who played in a sport. They collected their data by interviewing students out on the track after school. Was this a good method of sampling? Would that get me an overall view of the students in the high school if I went out on the track after school to see if people played a sport? Probably not. Why not? Yeah, I was going to say, wouldn't most people on the track after school be in sports? Question mark, question mark. Okay, what would be a better way to do it? Where would be a better place to interview or survey people if you wanted an overview of the entire student population? Okay, maybe survey at lunch. Somebody had mentioned last period, like maybe in your English class, because everybody has to be taking English, so you could sample your way through that way. That was a real good thought. So just something that's going to be more widespread and hopefully not, directed towards one group. So yeah, any of those would work. Any of those would work. And finally, you're like, wait, finally, this is the end already? Yeah, this is the end already. Okay, we got the charts back. Probability. Probability of getting a C and being female. Okay, it has to be both. So I look, I'm like, okay, C and female. Okay, I see 12. But probability is always a fraction. So in almost every case, your sample space will be the grand total. The only time there will be an exception to that will be if the word given shows up, which will reduce my sample space. So there, I already know this is over 100 before I even start. I don't see the word given anywhere. The only difference is, okay, when I see or, it can be either or. It doesn't have to be both. So for instance here, if I probability of an F, ooh, man. Probability of an F would be 26 out of 100 plus the probability of picking a male is 44 out of 100, but within these two groups, there's some overlap. There are some males that also got Fs, and I don't want to count them twice. So I'm going to subtract the male Fs, which there are 9, because that's the overlap that I don't want to count twice. So let's see, 26 plus 44 is 70 minus 9, 63 over 100. I don't think that's going to reduce. So each individual part and then just subtract where they're both together. Kind of like what we did up there with the and. So the final one, passing grade given female. Whenever we see the word given, our denominator becomes that group. So all the females, 56 of them, is my denominator. And the females with a passing grade, which in our case would be A's or C's. Those are both passing. So I'd come back up and I'd be like, okay, females, A and C. And I'd be at my answer. Now, you may get one tomorrow where it's only, one thing up here. Maybe it'll just be like A given female, and then I just put the A's up front or whatever. But that's it, okay? So, couple of quick suggestions here as